All right, shalom, everybody. We're going to continue right here with part 2 of the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain it. So the next part of scripture, we're going to go to the next story, the next person or character story we're going to look at right here is Daniel. And we're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain. And this is part 2. So we're going to go to Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. And it says, in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep broke from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians, and the astrologers, and the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dream. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spoke the Chaldeans, to the king in Aramaic. Give me a second. Okay. Then spoke the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac. O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known unto me the dream, with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. But if ye show the dream, and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream, and the interpretation thereof. They answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. The king answered and said, I know of a certainty that ye would gain the time, because ye see the thing is gone from me. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for ye. For ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show the interpretation thereof. The Chaldeans answered before the king, and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asked such things at any magician, or astrologer, or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requires, and there is none other that can show it before the king, except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babel. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain. And they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babel. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is a decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house, and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they would desire mercies of the Eloah of heaven concerning this secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babel. Then was the secret revealed. The glory of Elohim is to conceal a matter, but the honor of kings is to search it out. like the fact of Yoshua Mashiach coming was like a spirit of the ages that was revealed in its time. It is the mystery of godliness. All right, that we see in Timothy. Interesting. Let's look. Let's look right here. And was the secret revealed? What do we see in Deuteronomy? Dabarim. What do we see there in chapter 29? Well, let's look. Now the secrets of Yahuwah Elohim, yes, the secret things belong to Yahuwah Elohim. Yes, Yahuwah our Elohim. And the revealing to us and our sons forever is by the keeping of all the words of this Torah. Right. The secret things belong to you, but the things that are revealed belong to what? The children of Israel. Right? And their descendants. Forever that what? That we may keep all the words of this law. Right. The secret things belong unto Yahuwah our Elohim, but those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. Right. Things that are revealed. So look, it was revealed to one of the children of Israel right there. Because Daniel was of the children of Israel. Let's continue. The wisdom that made kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain. Because remember, this is definitely going to make them wonder because they just said no one could reveal this but one among the gods. No man will be able to do it, which is true. No man. It'd have to be a man that has the spirit of Yahweh. Right. The one who is the one true Elohim. Daniel 2:19. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the Eloha of heaven. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of Eloha forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding. He reveals the deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. I thank you and praise you, O Eloha, my fathers, who has given me wisdom and might, and has made known unto me now what we desired of you. For you have now made known unto us the king's matter. Then Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babel. He went and said it thus unto him, Destroy not the wise men of Babel. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Yehuda that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Are you able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king, The secret which the king has demanded the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, cannot show unto the king. But there is an Eloha in heaven that reveals secrets and makes known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed are these. As for you, O king, your thoughts came into your mind upon your bed, what should come to pass hereafter, and he that reveals secrets makes known to you what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that you might know the thoughts of your heart. But remember the what? The word of Elohim is quick and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword, able to divide asunder between the soul and the spirit, the joints and the marrow. It is a discerner of what? The thoughts and intents of the heart. It is, right there. You, O king, this is verse 31, Daniel 2. You, O king, saw, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before you, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. You saw till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. You, O king, are a king of kings, for the Allah of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heavens has he given into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. And after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to you, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaks in pieces, and subdues all things, and as iron that breaks all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. For as much as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron, and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas you saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Pay attention to that verse. That verse is indeed iron mingle themselves with the same seed of men. Seed of men. That means one of that part is the seed of man. That means whatever is mingling with it is something that is not of the seed of man. This also goes in with that what? That transhumanistic stuff. That one that makes robotic parts with actual flesh, with actual people, humans. It goes even within that, but let's continue. And in the days of these kings shall the Eloha of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great Aloha has made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is that your Aloha is an Aloha of Elohim, and a king of kings, yes, a lord of kings, an Adonai of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing that you could reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babel, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babel. Alright, so this is the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain. right? And we're going to Daniel chapter 4. And this is interesting because we get a small glimpse of the heavenly courtroom here. This is very, very interesting. But what we're looking at right here is the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain. Alright? Daniel chapter 4. Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all people, nations and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the Most High Eloha has wrought toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in my house, and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babel before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. Then came in the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But at the last Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, according to the name of my Elohim, and in whom is the holy Ruach Elohim. So he even, in the way that I guess he could, understand that Daniel had the Holy Spirit with him, in him. And before him I told the dream, saying, O Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know that the Holy Ruach Eloha is in you, and no secret troubles you. Tell me the visions of my dream that I have seen, and the interpretation thereof. Thus were the visions of my head and my bed. I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heavens dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed of it. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and a holy one came down from heaven, an Aaron and a Kadeshim. Came down from heaven. He cried aloud and said thus, Hew down the tree, and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves, and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven. And let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him. And let 7 periods of time pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, by the decree of the Aaron, and the demand by the word of the Kadeshim, by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that El Elyon, yes indeed, that the Most High rules in the kingdom of man, and gives it to whomsoever he will, and sets up over it the basis of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now you, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof, for as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but you are able, for the holy Ruach Eloha is in you. Well, so even Nebuchadnezzar is like, he's like, I know he can do it. At this point, now he's like, I know he can do it. Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spoke and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble you. Belteshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to them that hate you, and the interpretation thereof to your enemy. The tree that you saw, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heavens, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all. under which the beasts of the field dwell, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heavens had their habitation. It is you, O king, that are grown and become strong, for your greatness is grown and reaches unto heaven, and your dominion to the end of the earth. And whereas the king saw an Aaron and a Kadashim coming down from heaven, right, and whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven, and saying, hew the tree down, and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 periods of time pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of El Elyon, yes, the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive you from men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make you to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet you with the dew of heaven, and 7 periods of time shall pass over you, till you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomsoever he will. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, your kingdom shall be sure unto you. After that you shall have known that the heavens do rule. Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto you, and break off your sins by righteousness, and your iniquities by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of your tranquility. Yep. It didn't take Nebuchadnezzar, but then you read a little further in the chapter, it didn't take Nebuchadnezzar, but at the end of the year, at the end of 12 months, he got their prophet, and then this is when you see that judgment happen. Yep. And then, yeah, for 7 years, he was like a beast. And, I mean, that goes within that, yes, like a beast. Like a wild beast, yet understanding. Right. It's like the beast you hear about in the book of Revelation. Alright. Now we're in chapter 5, and there's a different king here. This is Belshazzar. Now, and he had made a feast right here. And for some reason he wanted to take out the golden vessels that were the ones that were taken out of the temple of Jerusalem. The house of the Heavenly Father Yahuwah that was in Jerusalem. He used those vessels. And so now what is he about to do? He's definitely about to pervert them, and that's not good. The Father's not going to be up there back. So you're going to use these to praise them false gods. Oh no. So watch this, verse 5. Daniel chapter 5. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the menorah. Interesting. The menorah, upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Wow, it was over against the menorah. Interesting. Like when you see Yehoshua in the midst of his people, in the midst of the stick. In the heavens, it's an Elohim. Now he about to say something and bring for judgment. Something about to be revealed. What we talking about, y'all? The wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder, and the quest to attain. Right? So yes, in the midst of the people, in the midst of the king. Alright. That's what the menorah is supposed to symbolize if we look in Revelation. Let's continue. we can go with that, but let's continue. We're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain. All right. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the menorah upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts, yes, the writing on the wall. All right. I'm going to do a quick little thing on that. Not right now. We may do that at another time. We may do that live. We'll see. It's really quick. Let's continue. About the writing on the wall. But let's continue. And we won't do it during this discussion, is what we're saying. But let's continue. We're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain it. But when we talk about the writing on the wall, it's gonna be interesting because it's that type of wisdom. Like what we're talking about. It's that type of wisdom that you don't usually hear. And it pertains to stuff that's recent as well, but let's continue. Alright. Verse 6, Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. The king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. And the king spoke and said to the wise men of Babel, Whosoever shall read this writing and show me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then came in all the king's wise men, but they could not read the writing, nor make known to the king the interpretation thereof. Then was King Belshazzar greatly troubled, and his countenance was changed in him, and his princes were astonished. Now the queen, by reason of the words of the king and his princes, came into the banquet house. And the queen spoke and said, O king, live forever. Let not your thoughts trouble you, nor let your countenance be changed. There is a man in your kingdom, in whom is the holy Ruach Eloha. In the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of Eloha, was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar, your father, the king, I say, your father made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers, for as much as an excellent Ruach. And you see father here, we know that Nebuchadnezzar, and this can be confirmed, we know that Nebuchadnezzar was actually his grandfather. And this can be looked up. But what do we see also in Scripture when you'll see, sometimes you'll hear it say, such and such was their father, even though the person was their great-great-great-grandfather, or even just, their grandfather. Okay. So it's saying, in a sense, you're like the person, but in a descendant of the person when you see father right there. But let's continue. Now, yes, there's certain times that it's actually just their other, directly. All right, let's continue. All right, verse 12. For as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams, and showing of hard sentences, and dissolving of doubts, were found in the same Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. Then was Daniel brought in before the king. So now he got the reputation, he got, it's something in him. He got his wisdom is like the wisdom of Elohim, because the wisdom of Elohim was placed in him. So a wisdom of Elohim, let's say that. Kind of like the word of wisdom that we hear about as one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit, like that. Okay? Because of course you won't have the fullness of the Father's wisdom, but he gives you a base, he gives you a part. Right. Let's continue. Verse Verse 13. Then was Daniel brought in before the king, and the king spoke and said unto Daniel, Are you that Daniel which are of the children of the captivity of Yehuda, of Judah, whom the king my father brought out of Yehuda? I have even heard of you, that the Ruach Eloha is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom is found in you. And now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But they could not show the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of you that you can make interpretations and dissolve doubts. Now if you can read the writing and make known to me the interpretation thereof, you shall be clothed with scarlet, and have a chain of gold about your neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, Let your gifts be to yourself, and give your rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known to him the interpretation. O king, the Most High Eloah gave Nebuchadnezzar your father a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would he slew, and whom he would he kept alive, and whom he would he set up, and whom he would he put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne. And they took his glory from him. And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beast. And his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High Eloah ruled in the kingdom of man, and that he appoints over it whomsoever he will. And you, his son, O Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, though you knew all this, but have lifted up yourself against the Adonai of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before you, and your princes, your women, and your concubines have drunk wine in them. And you have praised the Elohim of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know. And Eloha, in whose hand your breath is, and whose are all your ways, have you not glorified? Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. So now you finna watch this. Remember, this is actually the third generation. This for those that want to say that Torah didn't apply to the Gentiles in a sense. It's right here because it's in the third generation. This is when Babylon goes out. This is the third generation from Nebuchadnezzar. Because it's also like you should know better. That's what's being said right there. You saw what happened to Nebuchadnezzar. You should know better. Why would you then steal and do it? Then still go and do it? What did the other about himself? He said he showed mercy, what? On the thousands of those that love him and keep his commandments. But he what? He will visit the iniquity of what? Of what? And of the fathers to what? The what? The third and fourth generation of them that what? And watch this. Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Right. He showed mercy on the thousands of them that love him and keep his commandment. Right. See that? Third generation. Punishment. Get them on up out of there. This is when Babylon falls. Babylon falls. Babylon is falling. Right. Verse 25. Now, this is that. What? This is when Babylon's falling right there. Back then. It's going to happen again. Like we see in Revelation. Babylon, the whole entire system of Babylon. Babylon is going to fall and be destroyed. Like in the what? Vision that Nebuchadnezzar. Let's continue. Verse 25. And this is the writing that was written. Mene, Upharsin. Mene, Tekel, I'm sorry. Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. We'll go deeper in that when we do the writing on the wall one. Writing on the wall one. Because it's interesting. There's a thing that's interesting. When you hear the meaning. And this is also another tongue. This is a heavenly type tongue. But it's so similar to the tongues that they know. So, for people to say, oh, that was just a split thing when it came to that. No, we're going to show another example too when we talk about Joseph. And this is the writing that was written, many, Tekel Ufarsin. And this is an interpretation of the thing, meaning, Aloha has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you are weighed in the balances and are found wanting. Farsin, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. In that night was Belshazzar the king of the Chaldeans slain, and Darius the Mede took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. 60. What's that, y'all? A score is 20 times 3. That's 60. 62 years old. Toda Abaya. All right. Let's go to Joseph's story now. We're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain. Let's go to Joseph. Then we'll go to Moses. We'll go to Joseph's story now. Let's go to Genesis. Let's go to Genesis. Look, Bereshit, which is in the beginning. Alright. So we're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain. Alright. The book of Bereshit for Genesis, chapter 41. We're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed. And behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat flesh, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean flesh, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean flesh kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke. And he slept and dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of grain came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Mizraim, that's Egypt, all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Then spoke the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto my office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. He shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, that's Joseph, and Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. Elohim shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 of the kine came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Mizraim for badness. And the lean and ill-favored kind did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them. But they were still ill-favored, as at the beginning. So I woke, and I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears, withered, thin, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What Elohim is about to do, he shows unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Mizraim. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Mizraim. And the famine shall consume the land, and the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following. For it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by Elohim. That's right. 2 or 3 what, y'all? 2 or 3 witnesses that will be established. Let's continue. Yes, and for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by Elohim. And Elohim will shortly bring it to pass. Okay. Now, let's check out the account of this in the book of Jasher. Because we're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain it. So it's interesting because in the book of Jasher it's going to show some more about the wisdom that Yosef was given. So it's very interesting. And let's look at, and we're also going to, real quick, about when the other ones tried to interpret it, the so-called let's say this, the so-called wise men, the wise men astrologers that he had couldn't do. The wise men and the magicians weren't able to do it. They were giving him interpretations, but it was off, and he would know that it was off. And we'll see this right here. This is the book of Jasher, which is referred to in Joshua chapter 10. We've read in this before. Anybody who's been here with Yes Ministries before, on Spreaker, and whether it's on Salvation and Glory 7, on Spreaker, under a living share prophetic preaching. But yes, Salvation and Glory 7 on YouTube, whether it's on that, whether it's on Facebook Live, on Patrick Randolph, whether Patrick Randolph Facebook Live, whether it's on the Periscope. You've heard us about this book, the book of Joshua, which is referred to in Joshua 10 and 13. It's also referred to in Samuel. I believe it's 2 Samuel 1. Yes, 1 and 18. All right. All right. So this is the book of Jasher, chapter 48. And we'll start at verse 24. And this shows that the king even knew that that group was not giving him correct interpretations, just like Nebuchadnezzar knew that those wise men and astrologers were going to lie to him. So let's look. And the king heard all the words of the wise men of Mizraim. This is verse 24. Jasher chapter 48. And the king heard all the words of the wise men of Mizraim in their interpretation of his dreams, and none of them pleased the king. And the king knew, in his wisdom, that they did not altogether speak correctly in all these words. For this was from Yahuwah to frustrate the words of the wise men of Mizraim, in order that Yosef might go forth from the house of confinement, and in order that he should become great in Mizraim. And then we'll just read right here that he got that he did something similar to them, because he got upset and he was like, okay. Like he was mad at this point, the king was. And the king saw that none amongst all the wise men and magicians of Mizraim spoke correctly to him, and the king's wrath was kindled, and his anger burned within him. And the king commanded that all the wise men and magicians should go out from before him, and they all went out from before the king with shame and disgrace. And the king commanded that a proclamation be sent throughout Mizraim to slay all the magicians that were in Mizraim, and not one of them should be suffered to live. Like the Torah say, thou shalt not suffer a rich to live. Right. Verse 29. And the captains of the guard belonging to the king rose up, and each man drew his sword, and they began to smite the magicians of Mizraim. Yes, indeed, the Torah says that, but listen, indeed, we in the great now, so we don't go around this loudly. We preach the gospel to them and pray that they repent. Vengeance is yours. All right, let's continue. Okay, so then we see the part where the chief butler recommends, just like we saw in Genesis. So we're going to read right here, verse 42. We'll start here. All right. And the king, so this is when Yosef was brought to the king. And the king was sitting upon his royal throne in a princely dress, girt around with a golden ephod, and the fine gold which was upon it sparkled, and the carbuncle, and the ruby, and the emerald, together with all the precious stones that were upon the king's head, dazzled the eye. And Yosef wondered greatly at the king. And the throne upon which the king sat was covered with gold and silver, and with onyx stones, and it had 70 steps. And it was their custom throughout the land of Mizraim that every man who came to speak to the king, okay, this is very important here right here, that every man who came to speak to the king, if he was a prince or one that was estimable in the sight of the king, he ascended to the king's throne as far as the 31st step, and the king would descend to the 36th step, 5 steps away, right, and speak with him. If he was one of the common people, he ascended to the 3rd step, and the king would descend to the 4th, 1 step away, and speak to him. And their custom was, moreover, that any man who understood to speak in all the 70 languages, he ascended the 70 steps, and went up and spoke till he reached the king. And any man who could not complete the 70, he ascended as many steps as the languages which he knew to speak in. 47. And it was customary in those days in Mizraim that no one should reign over them, but who understood to speak in the 70 languages. This is very vital to know right here, because remember, Joseph is going to become the second in command. Now let's keep reading it. So, and that would mean he would be reigning over them. So he would have to know what this. So let's look. And when Yosef came before the king, he bowed down to the ground before the king, and he ascended to the 3rd step. And the king sat upon the 4th step, and spoke with Yosef. And the king said unto Yosef, I dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter to interpret it properly. And I commanded this day that all the magicians of Mizraim, and the wise men thereof, should come before me, and I related my dreams to them, and no one has properly interpreted them to me. And after this, I this day heard concerning you that you are a wise man, and can correctly interpret every dream that you hear. And Yosef answered Pharaoh, saying, Let Pharaoh relate his dreams that he dreamed. Surely the interpretations belong to Elohim. And Pharaoh related his dream to Yosef, the dream of the kine, and the dream of the ears of grain, and the king left off speaking. And Yosef was then clothed with the spirit of Elohim before the king. Yep, with the Ruach Elohim before the king. And he knew all the things that would befall the king from that day forward. And he knew the proper interpretation of the king's dream. And he spoke before the king. And Yosef found favor in the sight of the king. And the king inclined his ears and his heart and heard all the words of Yosef. So he had favor with Elohim and with man. Look at that. Hallelujah. And Yosef said unto the king, Do not imagine that they are two dreams, for it is only one dream. For that which Elohim has chosen to do throughout the land, he has shown to the king in his dream. And this is the proper interpretation of your dream. The 7 good kine and ears of grain are 7 years, and the 7 bad kine and ears of grain are also 7 years. It is one dream. Behold, the 7 years that are coming, there will be a great plenty throughout the land, and after that the 7 years of famine will follow them, a very grievous famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten from the land, and the famine will consume the inhabitants of the land. The king dreamed one dream, and the dream was therefore repeated unto Pharaoh, because the thing is established by Elohim, and Elohim will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore I will give you counsel, and deliver your soul and the souls of the inhabitants of the land from the evil of the famine, that you seek throughout your kingdom for a man very discreet and wise, who knows all the affairs of government, and appoint him to superintend over the land of Mizraim, and let the man whom you place over Mizraim appoint officers under him, that they gather in all the food of the good years that are coming, and let them lay up grain and deposit it in your appointed stores, and let them keep that food for the 7 years of famine, that it may be found for you and your people in your whole land, and that you and your land be not cut off by the famine. Let all the inhabitants of the land be also ordered that they gather in, every man the produce of his field, of all sorts of food during the 7 good years, and that they place it in their stores, that it may be found for them in the days of the famine, and that they may live upon it. This is the proper interpretation of your dream, and this is the counsel given to save your soul and the souls of all your subjects. And the king answered and said unto Yosef, Who says and who knows that your words are correct? And he said unto the king, This shall be a sign for you respecting all my words, that they are true, and that my advice is good for you. Look at this. Behold, your woman sits this day upon the stool of delivery, and she will bear you a son, and you will rejoice with him. When your child shall have gone forth from his mother's womb, your firstborn son that has been born these 2 years back shall die, and you will be comforted in the child that will be born unto you this day. And Yosef finished speaking these words to the king, and he bowed down to the king, and he went out. And when Yosef had gone out from the king's presence, those signs which Yosef had spoken unto the king came to pass on that day. And the queen bore a son on that day, and the king heard the good news about his son, and he rejoiced. And when the reporter had gone forth from the king's presence, the king's servants found the firstborn son of the king fallen dead upon the ground. And there was great lamentation and noise in the king's house. And the king heard it, and he said, What is the noise and lamentation that I have heard in the house? And they told the king that his firstborn son had died. Then the king knew that all Yosef's words that he had spoken were correct. And the king was consoled for his son by the child that was born to him on that day, as Yosef had spoken. All right, now chapter 49 of Genesis. So it was confirmed. All his word was confirmed. Hallelujah. Verse 49. Chapter 49, I'm sorry. What's the title? What we talking about, y'all? The wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain. After these things, the king sent and assembled all his officers and servants, and all the princes and nobles belonging to the king, and they all came before the king. And the king said unto them, Behold, you have seen and heard all the words of this Hebrew man, and all the signs which he declared would come to pass, and not any of his words have fallen to the ground. The same thing we heard about Samuel. We're going to talk about. We're going to talk about something with him as well. You know that he has given a proper interpretation of the dream, and it will surely come to pass. Now therefore take counsel and know what you will do, and how the land will be delivered from the famine. Seek now and see whether the light can be found, in whose heart there is wisdom and knowledge, and I will appoint him over the land. For you have heard what the Hebrew man has advised concerning this, to save the land therewith from the famine. And I know that the land will not be delivered from the famine, but with the advice of the Hebrew man, him that advised me. And they all answered the king and said, The counsel which the Hebrew has given concerning this is good. Now therefore, our Lord and King, behold, the whole land is in your hand. Do that which seems good in your sight. Him whom you choose, and whom you in your wisdom know to be wise and capable of delivering the land with his wisdom, him shall the king appoint to be under him over the land. And the king said to all the officers, I have thought that since Elohim has made known to the Hebrew man all that he has spoken, there is none so discreet and wise in the whole land as he is. If it seem good in your sight, I will place him over the land, for he will save the land with his wisdom. And all the officers answered the king and said, But surely it is written in the laws of Mr. Aim, and it should not be violated, that no man shall reign over Mr. Aim, nor be the second to the king, but one who has knowledge in all the languages of the sons of men. And that was what we was talking about here. Pay attention to. Okay. Now therefore, our Lord and King, behold, this Hebrew man can only speak the Hebrew language. And how then can he be over the second under government? The second under government, a man who not even knows our language. Now we pray you send for him, and let him come before you, and prove him in all things, and do as you see fit. And the king said, It shall be done tomorrow. And the thing that you have spoken is good. And all the officers came on that day before the king. Watch this, y'all. And on that night, Yahuwah sent one of his ministering angels. And he came into the land of Mizraim unto Yosef, and the angel of Yahuwah stood over Yosef. And behold, Yosef was lying in the bed at night in his master's house in the dungeon. For his master had put him back into the dungeon on account of his want. And the angel roused him from his sleep. And Yosef rose up and stood upon his legs. And behold, the angel of Yahuwah was standing opposite to him. And the angel of Yahuwah spoke with Yosef, and he taught him all the languages of man in that night. And he called his name Yahusef. And the angel of Yahuwah went from him, and Yosef returned and lay upon his bed, and Yosef was astonished at the vision which he saw. And it came to pass in the morning that the king sent for all his officers and servants, and they all came and sat before the king. And the king ordered Yosef to be brought, and the king's servants went and brought Yosef before Pharaoh. And the king came forth and ascended the steps of the throne, and Yosef spoke unto the king in all languages. Wow, he learned all the languages in that night. So it don't matter what the thing is, it looks like you may not know, may not be qualified. But the Lord is strengthen our weakness, and he can teach us. He teaches us. So even with all of us that be trying to learn Hebrew and read it, we need to be letting the Holy Spirit lead us and guide us into all truth. And teach us that language. Right. Because the pure language to be restored, as we saw in Zephaniah. But let's continue. Yes, this is some reason that, yes, we have that gift of the Spirit. Yes. That there is a spirit of what? Interpreting tongues. And you also have your prayer language, and you also may what? Speak in tongues. Yes, you can speak in the tongue the Father, if the Father give it to you, yes, you can speak in the tongues of man and of angels. Let's continue. And it came to pass in the morning that the king sent for all his officers and servants, and they all came and sat before the king. And the king ordered Yosef to be brought, and the king's servants went and brought Yosef before Pharaoh. And the king came forth and ascended the steps of the throne, and Yosef spoke unto the king in all languages. And Yosef went up to him and spoke unto the king until he arrived before the king in the 70th step, and he sat before the king. And the king greatly rejoiced on account of Yosef, and all the king's officers rejoiced greatly with the king when they heard all the words of Yosef. And the thing seemed good in the sight of the king and the officers to appoint Yosef to be second to the king over the whole land of Mizraim. And the king spoke to Yosef, saying, Now you did give me counsel to appoint a wise man over the land of Mizraim, in order with his wisdom to save the land from the famine. Now therefore, since Elohim has made all this known to you, and all the words which you have spoken, there is not throughout the land a discreet and wise man like unto you. And your name shall no more be called Yosef, but Zaphanath Paneah it shall be your name. You shall be second to me, and according to your word shall be all the affairs of my government, and at your word shall my people go out and come in. Hallelujah. The wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain. Now, let's go to the book of Yeshua and a story that talks about Moses. Alright. Now, this is during the time Moses had fled from Egypt, and he had fled to Cush during this, the land of Cush, and when he had fled there, he was real young, and they were at war. They were at war, and he had found favor among the people, and he was in the army with them, and they had a king, and this king ended up dying. But first they went to the children of Aram to fight against them, the children of Aram and of the east, and the children of the east and of Aram, and they had rebelled against them. So Kikianus, that king of Cush, went to go, subdue them because they were rebelling against the ones they were subject to. And he had left it with Balaam. And the same Balaam. We hear about him. The book of Numbers. And basically he left the city with him. So when he left it with him, he basically had shut up the city. And so Kikianus then were laying siege to it for years. And for 9 years. And they couldn't get by the serpents that Balaam and his sons had put on a certain side of this by enchantments. But the Father's going to give Moses wisdom that's going to allow him to be able to do this. And at this point, Moses is king of Cush now, because at this point, Kikianus has died, and they all looked at Moses like that because the Father Yahuwah granted Moshe favor and grace in the eyes of all the children of Cush. Children of Cush will be what is later known as Ethiopia. Okay, so let's look here. We're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain. Yes, indeed. This is interesting. This is wisdom like that. Even though, yes, Moses is the king of Cush right here at this point. But it's just like Solomon was king, and he was also showing some to a queen. But right here, yes, it was just Moses and these people that was subject to him at that point because he was king of Cush. But this is, yes, definitely wisdom makes kings and queens wonder. Watch this. Alright. Verse 11. Joshua 73. And Moshe said unto them, Pass through and proclaim a voice in the whole camp unto all the people, saying, Thus says the king, Go into the forest and bring with you of the young ones of the stork, each man a young one in his hand. And any person transgressing the word of the king, who shall not bring his young one, he shall die, and the king will take all belonging to him. And when you shall bring them, they shall be in your keeping. You shall rear them until they grow up, and you shall teach them to dart upon, as is the way of the young ones of the hawk. So all the children of Cush heard the words of Moshe, and they rose up and caused a proclamation to be issued throughout the camp, saying, Unto you, all the children of Cush, the king's order is, that you go all together to the forest, and catch there the young storks, each man his young one in his hand, and you shall bring them home. And any person violating the order of the king shall die, and the king will take all that belongs to him. And all the people did so, and they went out to the wood, and they climbed the fir trees and caught, each man a young one in his hand, all the young of the storks. And they brought them into the desert and reared them by the order of the king. And they taught them to dart upon, similar to the young hawks. And after the young storks were reared, the king ordered them to be hungered for 3 days. And all the people did so. And on the third day, the king said unto them, Strengthen yourselves and become valiant men. And put on each man his armor, and gird on his sword upon him, and ride each man his horse, and take each his young stork in his hand. And we will rise up and fight against the city at the place where the serpents are. And all the people did as the king had ordered. And they took each man his young one in his hand, and they went away. And when they came to the place of the serpents, the king said to them, Send forth each man his young stork upon the serpent. See, this is why it says wisdom is a defense, y'all, in the word. It says wisdom is a defense, me is a defense. Right. Yep. And they went up, okay. And they took each man his young one in his hand. And they went up, and they went away. And when they came to the place of the serpents, the king said to them, Send forth each man his young stork upon the serpents. And they sent forth each man his young stork at the king's order. And the young storks ran upon the serpents, and they devoured them all, and they destroyed them out of that place. And when the king and people had seen that all the serpents were destroyed in that place, all the people set up a great shout. And they approached and fought against the city, and took it and subdued it, and they entered the city. And there died on that day 1,100 men of the people of the city, all that inhabited the city. But of the people besieging, not one died. So all the children of Cush went each to his home, to his woman and children, all belonging to him. So this when they ran away. This is also when you hear it talk about, they was talking about he got an Ethiopian woman in Scripture. There you go. And you see when they were trying to talk about him because of that, when Miriam and Aaron was doing that. When they weren't supposed to speak against Moses like that, yeah, that would have been in his time in Cush that day. They just gave her to him because that was the king's wife. That king's wife that had passed. Oh. The one that had died. Right. Alright. So yes, we're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain it. Okay, so now we gotta of course talk about Yoshua Mashiach. We got to. All right. So of course the Messiah and disciples, and even us in these times, should be able to do that. Those that know their Elohim shall do what? Mighty exploits. Let's get it. Matthew 13, verse 54. Matthew 13 and 54, and it says, "And when he was come into his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, so much so that they were astonished, and said, Whence has this man this wisdom and these mighty works?" So they was like, huh? They were like, man, like how? All right, Matthew 22 and 46. What did it say? "And no man was able to answer him a word, neither there is any man from that day forth ask him any more questions." So he was able to answer all that questions. They stopped. They stopped asking questions. They was like, man. Because see, they was trying to trip him up, but he would say stuff and it would confound them. They figured out. Right. All right, let's look at Luke 21. This is where we make it. We're going to come back to that. We're going to come back to that. Let's go Mark 6 and 1. Watch this. Then we're going to go to the book of Jubilee. Mark 6 and 1. Because we're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and attest to attain. And right here what we see is even how the miracles he performed were related to wisdom. Watch what they're going to say. Look. Mark 6 and 1, it says, "And he went out from thence, and came into his own country, and his disciples followed him. And when the Shabbat was come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, From whence has this man these things? And what wisdom is this which is given unto him, that even such mighty works are wrought by his hands?" So they wonder, and they're like, where does this come from? And they like, man, ain't such and such as, dad, ain't that his mom? Like, we know them. Where is this coming from? What is this? It's going to be the way with some of us that he raises up. That they're going to be like, man, where they come from? Like, how? And they're like, man, I just said, I know who they related. All right? Yes, let's look here. Look right here in the book of Jubilees about Canaan. And like we talked about way earlier, we are not talking about that one we usually call Canaan. That's the son of Ham. It's actually Canaan. So yes, miracles can also be when they were looking at it, miracles were also related to wisdom. It's the book of Jasher where we can find out about King. Okay. When I was sitting, I was like, man, it's the book of Jasher, not Jubilees. Okay. All right, let's look here. This is Canaan, the son of Enosh. Okay. And let's remember, Enosh was the son of Seth. Seth, who was the son of Adam. Okay. All right, Jasher chapter 2, verse 10. And Enosh lived 90 years, and he begot Canaan and Canaan. And Canaan grew up, and he was 40 years old, and he became wise and had knowledge and skill in all wisdom, and he reigned over all the sons of men. And he led the sons of men to wisdom and knowledge. For Canaan was a very wise man and had understanding in all wisdom. And with his wisdom he ruled over spirits and devils. And Canaan knew by his wisdom that Elohim would destroy the sons of men for having sinned upon earth, and that Yahuwah would in the latter days bring upon them the waters of the flood. And in those days Canaan wrote upon tablets of stone what was to take place in time to come, and he put them in his treasures. And Canaan reigned over the whole earth, and he turned some of the sons of men to the service of the Elohim. Now this is something we're going to see Enoch take to another level. Yes, that Enoch we heard of that's taken up, that walked with Elohim in, was not that Enoch that we read about. Enoch, the son of Jared, who was Methuselah's father. Yes, that Enoch. So indeed does have a full book. Okay. No. And we'll go there next. It's interesting because it's in the next chapter. We're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain. So it's in the next chapter of Jasher when we're going to read about Enoch. But before we get there, all right, here we go. Luke 4. Before we get there, let's read something about Mashiach that talks about how he had authority over the spirits, and as it pertains to doctrine, and that his word was with power. Okay. Luke 4 and 32. And they were astonished at his doctrine, for his word was with power. His word was with power. When it is with power, and see, we're gonna go somewhere a little later on about that as well. But when it's with power, it is astonishing. The wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder, and the quest to attain it. Okay, verse 33. And in the synagogue there was a man which had a spirit of an unclean devil, and cried out with a loud voice, saying, Let us alone, what have we to do with you, Yahusha the Nazarene? Are you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of Yahuwah. And Yahusha rebuked him, saying, Hold your peace, and come out of him. And when the devil had thrown him in the midst, he came out of him, and hurt him not. And they were all amazed, and spoke among themselves, saying, What a word is this? For with authority and power he commands the unclean spirits, and they come out. And the fame of him went out into every place of the country round about. So yes, we see that was a time Herod wanted to try to meet him or him or whatnot. Of course, we saw the wise men try to come from far. To see about Mashiach when he was born. So this is the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain. Now let's go to Enoch's story. Alright, and this is found in Joshua chapter 3. We're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain. Alright, and Enoch lived 65 years and he begot Methuselah. And Enoch walked with Elohim after having begot Methuselah, and he served Yahuwah and despised the evil ways of men. And the soul of Enoch was wrapped up in the instruction of Yahuwah. Instruction, like that word Robin, something to that. Instruction. The instruction of Yahuwah in knowledge and in understanding. And he wisely retired from the sons of men, and secreted himself from them for many days. And it was at the expiration of many years, while he was serving Yahuwah and praying before him in his house, that an angel of Yahuwah called to him from heaven, and he said, Here am I. And he said, Rise, go forth from your house, and from the place where you do hide yourself, and appear to the sons of men, in order that you may teach them the way in which they should go, and the work which they must accomplish to enter in the ways of Elohim. And Enoch rose up according to the word of Yahuwah, and went forth from his house, from his place, and from the chamber in which he was concealed. And he went to the sons of men, and taught them the ways of Yahuwah. And at that time assembled the sons of men, and acquainted them with the instruction of Yahuwah. And he ordered it to be proclaimed in all places where the sons of men dwelt, saying, Where is the man who wishes to know the ways of Yahuwah and good works? Let him come to Enoch. And all the sons of men then assembled to him, for all who desired this thing went to Enoch. And Enoch reigned over the sons of men according to the word of Yahuwah. And they came and bowed to him, and they heard his word. And the Ruach Elohim was upon Enoch, and he taught all his men the wisdom of Elohim and his ways. And the sons of men served Yahuwah all the days of Enoch, and they came to hear his wisdom. The wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in a quest to attain. And here we go. And all the kings of the sons of men, both first and last, together with their princes and judges, came to Enoch when they heard of his wisdom, and they bowed down to him. And they also required of Enoch to reign over them, to which he consented. And they assembled in all 130 kings and princes. And they made Enoch king over them, and they were all under his power and command. And Enoch taught them wisdom, knowledge, and the ways of Yahuwah. And he made peace amongst them, and peace was throughout the earth during the life of Enoch. And Enoch reigned over the sons of men 243 years, and he did justice and righteousness with all his people. Yep, like justice and judgment, that's right. Justice and righteousness with all his people. And he led them in the ways of Yahuwah. And these are the generations of Enoch. Okay. Listen right here. Okay. And it was in the year of Adam's death, which was the 243rd year of the reign of Enoch. In that time, Enoch resolved to separate himself from the sons of men and to secret himself as at first in order to serve Yahuwah. And Enoch did so, but did not entirely secret himself from them, but kept away from the sons of men 3 days, and then went to them for 1 day. And during the 3 days that he was in his chamber, he prayed to and praised Yahuwah Elohim. And the day on which he went and appeared to his subjects, he taught them the ways of Yahuwah. And all they asked him about Yahuwah, he told them. All that they asked him about Yahuwah, he told them. Wow, hallelujah. And he did in this manner for many years. And he afterward concealed himself for 6 days. And he afterward concealed himself for 6 days, and appeared to his people 1 day and 7. And after that, once in a month, and then once in a year, until all the kings, princes, and sons of men sought for him, and desired again to see the face of Enoch, and to hear his word. But they could not, as all the sons of men were greatly afraid of Enoch. And they feared to approach him on account of the Elohim like awe. Yes, like the God like awe. The Elohim like awe that was seated upon his countenance. Therefore no man could look at him, fearing he might be punished and die. So it was like even more glory upon his face than what Moses had when he came down the mount that time. He had to wear the veil on his face. All right. And all the kings and princes resolved to assemble the sons of men and to come to Enoch, thinking that they might all speak to him at the time when he should come forth amongst them. And they did so. And the day came when Enoch went forth, and they all assembled and came to him. And Enoch spoke to them the words of Yahuwah, and he taught them wisdom and knowledge. And they bowed down before him, and they said, May the king live, may the king live. And then sometime after, when the kings and princes and the sons of men were speaking to Enoch, and Enoch was teaching them the ways of Elohim, behold, an angel of Yahuwah then called unto Enoch from heaven, and wished to bring him up to heaven to make him reign there over the sons of Elohim, as he had reigned over the sons of men upon earth. When at that time Enoch heard this, he went and assembled all the inhabitants of the earth, and taught them wisdom and knowledge, and gave them divine instructions. And he said to them, I have been required to ascend into heaven. I therefore do not know the day of my going. And now therefore I will teach you wisdom and knowledge, and will give you instruction before I leave you, how to act upon earth whereby you may live. And he did so. And he taught them wisdom and instruction, and gave them instruction, and he reproved them, and he placed before them commandments and judgments to do upon earth. And he made peace amongst them, and he taught them everlasting life, and dwelt with them some time, teaching them all these things. And at that time the sons of men were with Enoch, and Enoch was speaking to them, and they lifted up their eyes, and the likeness of a great horse descended from heaven, and the horse paced in the air. And they told Enoch what they had seen, and Enoch said to them, On my account does this horse descend upon earth? The time is come when I must go from you, and I shall no more be seen by you. And the horse descended at that time and stood before Enoch. And all the sons of men that were with Enoch saw him. And Enoch then again ordered a voice to be proclaimed, saying, Where is the man who delights to know the ways of Yahuwah Eloheinu? Let him come this day to Enoch before he is taken from us. All the sons of men assembled and came to Enoch that day, and all the kings of the earth with their princes and counselors remained with him that day. And Enoch then taught the sons of men wisdom and knowledge, and gave them divine instruction. He bade them serve Yahuwah and walk in his ways all the days of their life, and continue to make peace amongst them. If you continue to read all the way to the end, which is all the way to verse 38, you'll see a lot of them actually followed him to the point of when he was taken up. Yes. So the wisdom that made kings and queens wanted to test the quest to attain it. So all the kings wanted to learn this wisdom. Like, everyone was coming to hear. Wow. Toda. Yeah. So we read from the book of Joshua chapter 3, verse 1. All the way to 13. Then we went down to 17. And we read 17 all the way to... So yes, we read from 1 to 13. Then we read from 17 to 31. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain. All right, next we're going to talk about other Abraham. Now we could go with Abraham for a while. We can go to different places. We can go to the books, but okay, so we're going to look at what we're going to look at what he's Abram at this time, said to Nimrod, who was king of the world at the time, who would be, in a sense, like a first picture of the Antichrist, or the Anti-Mashiach. Okay. All right, Josh, and here's another thing. This is with Abram's own dad, and this was like what Mashiach was telling us about. That it could be what? One of your family members that deliver you up to be killed, and this is what happened right here. His dad snitched on him. Terah, Abram's dad snitched on him to the game. Abram's dad, Terah, had a high position in court. He was like president or prime minister or captain of the host for Nimrod. So yeah, he was there like that. And that's why he named his son Abram, which means exalted father, because he was exalted in Nimrod's court. Now let's look. And of course, the father renamed Abram Abraham, which meant father of many nations, father of multitude. Right. All right, so let's look. Let's go to Jasher. This should be 11. Yep. And verse 52. And the king sent 3 men of his servants, and they went and brought Abram before the king. And Nimrod and all his princes and servants were that day sitting before him, and Terah sat also before them. And the king said to Abram, "What is this that you have done to your father and to his gods?" And Abram answered the king in the words that he spoke to his father. And he said, "The large Elohim that was with them in the house did to them what you have heard." And the king said to Abram, "Had they power to speak and eat and do as you have said?" And Abram answered the king, saying, "And if there be no power in them, why do you serve them, and cause the sons of men to err through your follies? Do you imagine that they can deliver you or do anything small or great, that you should serve them? And why will you not sense the Elohim of the whole world?" Yeah. Typo. And will you not? And why will you not serve? And why will you not serve the Elohim of the whole universe, who created thee and in whose power it is to kill and keep alive? O foolish, simple, and ignorant king, woe unto thee forever. I thought thou wouldst teach thy servants the upright way, but thou hast not done this, but hast filled the whole earth with thy sins and the sins of thy people who have followed thy ways. Dost thou not know, or hast thou not heard, that this evil which thou doest, our ancestors sinned therein in days of old? And the eternal Elohim brought the waters of the flood upon them, and destroyed them all, and also destroyed the whole earth on their account. And wilt thou and thy people rise up now, and do like unto this work, in order to bring down the anger of Yahuwah, Elohim of the universe, and to bring evil upon thee and the whole earth? Now therefore put away this evil deed which thou doest, and serve the Elohim of the universe, as thy soul is in his hands, and then it will be well with thee. And if thy wicked heart will not hearken to my words, and cause thee to forsake thy evil ways, and to serve the eternal Elohim, then wilt thou die in shame in the latter days, thou, thy people, and all who are connected with thee, hearing thy words or walking in thy evil ways. And when Abram had ceased speaking before the king and princes, Abram lifted up his eyes to the heavens, and he said, Yahweh seeth all the wicked, and he will judge them. Nimrod did not truly repent. Nimrod did die in shame in the latter days. Esau cut off his head. This is why Esau was so tired, and to the point that when he was running away, when he sold what? His birthright. Yeah. Let's see here. So it was ordered that Abram be along with his brother, because then his dad got snitched on his other brother, be thrown into the fiery furnace. Abram, of course, survived, just like the 3 Hebrew boys did. So let's see. Because they were like, wow, he didn't even shake in his presence. He didn't even stir in my presence. This is what Nimrod was saying. He didn't even care. Like, they like, whoa. But let's look. Alright, so when this happened, when he was delivered, because now they're trying to figure it out. Watch this. This is in the next chapter. Watch this. This is chapter 12 of Jasher. We're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wander in the quest to attain. And when the king saw that his servants could not approach the fire lest they should be burned, the king called to Abram, O servant of the Elohim who is in heaven, go forth from amidst the fire and come hither before me. And Abram hearkened to the voice of the king, and he went forth from the fire and came and stood before the king. And when Abram came out, the king and all his servants saw Abram coming before the king, with his lower garments upon him, for they were not burned, but the cord with which he was bound was burned. And the king said to Abram, how is it that thou wast not burned in the fire? So they're like, what? Whoa, like what happened? And Abram said to the king, the Elohim of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, and who has all in his power, he delivered me from the fire into which thou didst cast me. And Haran, the brother of Abram, was burned to ashes, and they sought for his body, and they found it consumed. And Haran was 82 years old when he died in the fire cast. And the king, princes, and inhabitants of the land, seeing that Abram was delivered from the fire, they came and bowed down to Abram. And Abram said to them, do not bow down to me, but bow down to the Elohim of the world who made you, and serve him, and go in his ways, for it is he who delivered me from out of this fire. And it is he who created the souls and spirits of all men, and formed man in his mother's womb, and brought him forth into the world. And it is he who will deliver those who trust in him from all pain. And this thing seemed very wonderful. Wonderful. The wisdom that makes kings and queens wander in the quest to attain. And this thing seemed very wonderful in the eyes of the king and princes that Abram was saved from the fire and that Haran was burned. And the king gave Abram many presents, and he gave him his 2 head servants from the king's house. The name of one was Oni, and the name of the other was Eleazar. That's the Eleazar, yes, that we hear about in the book of Genesis. This is how he got it. And all the kings, princes, and servants gave Abram many gifts of silver and gold and pearl. And the king and his princes sent him away, and he went in peace. Now, that was not before Abram was actually permitted to speak in the king's court about the Elohim of heaven. So Abram was spreading the gospel there as well. Yes, and Babylon, just like he also got to do when he was in Egypt, when they went to Egypt as well. And the book, The Writings of Abraham, actually, talk more about that he was able to sit and do that for a little bit. But then, of course, the adversary gets, and it's like, okay, you got to get him up out of here. And/or reminds Nimrod in dreams, it reminds him that, hey, like, your whole kingdom's going to be destroyed because of this person. Right. Okay, so we see right here, and Abram went forth from the king in peace, and many of the king's servants followed him, and about 300 men joined him. When Abram returned on that day and went to his father's house, he and the men that followed him, and Abram served Yahweh his Elohim all the days of his life. And he walked in his ways and followed his law. And from that day forward, Abram inclined the hearts of the sons of men to serve Yahweh. See? Hallelujah. Now, we're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens one in the quest to attain. Let's go to one more about Abraham. Okay. As it pertains to this, and this should be in the book of Jubilees. Now, there was a big problem that was going on in the land when Abram was born. Okay, in Jubilees 11 is where we find it. Okay, and early on, you see that Abram is different, and we're going to see right here. Okay, in the 7th year of this week, she bore him a son. This is verse 14, Jubilees 11. Okay, because in these days, what we see, or before that, when Terah was born, let's run it back a little bit. We're going to look at the actual problem and then look at what happens. Okay, verse 10. And the prince, verse 9, I'm sorry. And she bore him Terah in the 7th year this week. So Terah right here is born to Nahor at this point. And this is in Ur of the Chaldeans. Okay. Verse 10. And so we see, and the prince Mastema sent ravens and birds to devour the seed which was sown in the land, in order to destroy the land, rob the children of men of their labors. Before they could plow in the seed, the ravens picked it from the surface of the ground. And for this reason he called his name Terah, because the ravens and the birds reduced them to destitution and devoured their seed. And the years began to be barren, owing to the birds, and they devoured all the fruit of the trees from the trees. It was only with great effort that they could save a little of all the fruit of the earth in their days. And in this 39th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 1st year, Terah took to himself a woman, and her name was Edna, the daughter of Abram, the daughter of his father's sister. And that's also who Abram was named after. In the 7th year of his week, she bore him a son, and he called his name Abram by the name of the father of his mother, for he had died before his daughter had conceived a son. And the child began to understand the errors of the earth, that all went astray after graven images and after uncleanness, and his father taught him writing. And he was 2 weeks of years old, that's 14, and he separated himself from his father, and that he might not worship idols with him. And he began to pray to the Creator of all things, that he might save him from the errors of the children of men, and that his portion should not fall into error after uncleanness and violence. And the seed time came for the sowing of seed upon the land, and they all went forth together to protect their seed against the ravens. And Abram went forth with those that went, and the child was a lad of 14 years. And a cloud of ravens came to devour the seed, and Abram ran to meet them before they settled on the ground, and cried to them before they settled on the ground to devour the seed, and said, Descend not, return to the place whence ye came. And they proceeded to turn back. Yes, power in his word right there, because he what? He sought Yahweh through Yahushua, the creator of all things. Hallelujah. And he caused the clouds of ravens to turn back that day 70. Yep, 70 times. And of all the ravens throughout all the land where Abram was, there settled there not so much as one. And all who were with him throughout all the land saw him cry out, and all the ravens turned back. And his name became great in all the land of the Chaldeans. And there came to him this year all those that wished to sow. And he went with them until the time of sowing ceased, and they sowed their land. And that year they brought enough grain home and ate and was satisfied. And in the first year of the 5th month, Abram taught those who made implements for oxen, the artificers in wood, and they made a vessel above the ground, facing the frame of the plow, in order to put the seed thereon, and the seed fell down therefrom upon the share of the plow, and was hidden in the earth, and they no longer feared the ravens. And after this manner they made vessels above the ground on all the frames of the plows, and they sowed and tilled all the land, according as Abram commanded them. And they no longer fear the birds. Hallelujah. The wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain it. He's inventing stuff, and he's crying out and it's the ravens from God. Hallelujah. All right, let's go to Samuel's wisdom to be able to tell Saul all that was in his heart, like Solomon did to the Queen of Sheba. All right, let's go to the book of Samuel. 1 Samuel, of course. Watch this. All right, 1 Samuel. I remember, Saul's not a king yet, but here's the interesting part. He was a king, and it was like he was seeking, something else out, but it was as if he was seeking wisdom. He was, because he was seeking help to find something. Seeking, you shall find. Look at this. But he's going to get more than what he was actually looking for. Hallelujah. Let's look here. And then we know that the prophets worked in conjunction with the kings. So a lot of times they would go seek the word of Yahweh at the prophet. Right, the wisdom at the mouth of the prophet. The wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain it. So let's look right here. Alright, 1 Samuel 9 and 27. And as they were going down to the end of the city, Shemuel said to Shaul, "Bid the servant pass on before us." And he passed on. "But stand still a while, that I may show you the word of Elohim." Then Shemuel took a vial of oil and poured it upon his head and kissed him and said, "Is it not because Yahuwah has anointed you to be captain over his inheritance? When you are departed from me today, then you shall find 2 men by Rachel's sepulchre in the border of Benjamin at Zelzah. And they will say unto you, The asses which you went to seek are found. And lo, your father has left the care of the asses and sorrows for you, saying, What shall I do for my son? Then shall you go on forward from thence, and you shall come to the plain of Tabor. And there shall meet you 3 men, going up to Elohim to Bethel, one carrying 3 kids, and another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a bottle of wine. And they will salute you, and give you 2 loaves of bread, which you shall receive of their hands. After that you shall come to the hill of Elohim, where is the garrison of the Philistines. And it shall come to pass, when you are come hither to the city, that you shall meet a company of prophets coming down from the high place with a psaltery, and a tabret, and a pipe, and a harp before them. And they shall prophesy. And the Ruach Yahuwah will come upon you, and you shall prophesy with them, and shall be turned into another man. And let it be, when these signs are come unto you, that you do as occasion serve you, for Elohim is with you. And you shall go down before me to Gilgal, and behold, I will come down unto you to offer burnt offerings and to sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days shall you tarry, till I come to you and show you what you shall do. So he told him everything that was in his fault. And yes, look at 19, verse 19, what he says. And back up in 1 Samuel chapter 9. And Shemuel answered Saul and said, I am the seer. Go up before me unto the high place, for ye shall eat with me today. And tomorrow I will let you go, and will tell you all that is in your heart. See, there it is. He told him all that was in his heart. That's why he said, and as for your asses that were lost 3 days ago, set not your mind on them, for they are found. And on whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not on you and on all your father's house? You look at that. Hallelujah. All right. Now we're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and a quest to attain it. So yes, part of it is also with that wisdom that what? That they won't even be able to gainsay. Let's go to the book of Acts. Now let's go 1 Corinthians 1:17 through 2:16. All right. Actually, let's go to Acts. Let's go to Acts chapter 6, verse 8 and verse 10. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, verse 8 and verse 10. And it says, and Stephen, full of belief and power, did great wonders and miracles among the people. Here we go. Verse 10. And they were not able to resist the wisdom and the ruach by which he spoke. Hallelujah. The wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain it. They would not be able to what? Gainsay or speak against that. Let's look. Let's go to Luke 21:12 through 15. This is where we may come in at, and then we'll complete this at in 1 Corinthians. Now we were there. We referenced it earlier, but we're going to read those verses, and that's how we're going to close it out. But let's go Luke 21:12 through 15. Talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain. All right, so Luke 21. Interesting. One of the last days kind of stuff. Okay, let's read it. Verses 12 through 15. Luke 21. But before all these, they shall lay hands on you. They shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. Actually, let's go to a couple instances. Let's go to Acts. Let's go back to Acts. Then we're going to finish with 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 17 through chapter 2, verse 16. Let's go to Acts real quick, because you're going to see some cases of this in Acts. Some cases of what we just read in Luke 21. Watch this. And yes, the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain it. Watch this. Paul had a couple instances where he was before rulers in the book of Acts. We see. I mean, we remember, they were saying, man, these are the ones that turned the world upside down. Like, that's how it was when they brought that word. Whew. But let's look, watch this. Okay, yes, we're going to go to the part when he was talking and Agrippa almost was persuaded to become a believer. That's definitely one of the places we will go. There's a couple of other places. In Acts we have to go to as well. All right, here we go. Acts chapter 13. Verse 4. So they, being sent forth by the Holy Spirit, departed unto Seleucia, and from thence they sailed to Cyprus. And when they were at Salamis, they preached the word of Elohim in the synagogues of the Yahudim. And they had also John to their minister. And when they had gone through the isle unto Paphos, they found a certain sorcerer, a false prophet, a Yahudi, whose name was Bar Jesus, which was with the deputy of the country. Okay, so this is a guy who has a lot of influence in the country, this deputy. So he'd be like a ruler in a sense. So we're talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain it. So this would help for the gospel to be spread a little more freely in this place, in this country, in this area. So let's look. Which was with the deputy of the country, Sergius Paulus, a prudent man, who called for Barnabas and Saul and desired to hear the word of Elohim. So he wanted to hear the word of Elohim. See, this is what we've been talking about this whole time. The wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain it. And we were saying there will be some that seek people out because they want to know the word of Elohim. They want to know the truth. Of the word of Elohim. Let's continue. But Elymas, the sorcerer, for so is his name by interpretation, withstood them, seeking to turn away the deputy from the faith. Then Saul, who also is called Paul, filled with the Holy Spirit, set his eyes on him, and said, O full of all subtlety and all mischief, thou child of the devil, thou enemy of all righteousness, wilt thou not cease to pervert the right ways of Yahweh? And now, behold, the hand of Yahweh is upon thee, and thou shalt be blind, not seeing the sun for a season. And immediately there fell on him a mist and a darkness, and he went about seeking some to lead him by the hand. Then the deputy, when he saw what was done, believed, hallelujah, being astonished at the doctrine of Yahweh. Hallelujah. Thank you, Father. The wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain. So this deputy believed. Said he was astonished. All right, now, this right here is about to be instance what we read in Luke 21. When they had delivered up Paul, to when actually his own brethren, but were not like actual brethren, delivered him up, and he had to then give that testimony, like we were talking about, before kings. Acts 22. Men, brethren, and fathers, hear ye my defense, which I make now unto you. And when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew tongue to them, they kept the more silence. And he saith, I am verily a man which am a Yahudi, born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous toward Elohim, as ye all are this day. And I persecuted this way unto the death, binding and delivering into prisons both men and women, as also the high priest doth bear me witness, and all the estate of the elders, from whom also I received letters unto the brethren, and went to Damascus, to bring them which were there bound unto Jerusalem, for to be punished. And it came to pass that, as I made my journey, and was come nigh unto Damascus about noon, suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me. And I fell unto the ground, and heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? Now this is the time he had to give it a defense before he got to the part when he was talking to King Agrippa. Then this is in chapter 26 when he does that. All right, let's continue. It came to pass that as I made my journey and was come nigh unto Damascus about noon, suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me. And I fell unto the ground and heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And I answered, Who art thou, Lord? It's interesting. Off the rip, he knew to call him his master, call him right. And he said unto me, I am Joshua of Nazareth, whom thou persecutest. And they that were with me saw indeed the light, and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake to me. And I said, What shall I do, Lord? And the Lord said unto me, Arise and go into Damascus, and there it shall be told thee of all things which are appointed for thee to do. And when I could not see for the glory of that light, being led by the hand of them that were with me, I came unto Damascus. And one Ananias, a devout man according to the law, having a good report of all the Yahudim which dwelt there, came unto me and stood and said unto me, Brother Saul, receive thy sight. In the same hour I looked up upon him, and he said, The Elohim of our fathers have chosen thee, that thou shouldest know his will, and see that just one, and shouldst hear the voice of his mouth. For thou shalt be his witness unto all men of what thou hast seen and heard. There it is. We're gonna have an interesting discussion about that. It's gonna be called a witness of what thou hast seen and heard. So let's continue. And now, why tarriest thou? But that's a different teaching slash discussion. Let's continue. And now, why tarriest thou? Arise and be baptized and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of Yahuwah. And it came to pass that when I was come again to Jerusalem, even while I prayed in the temple, I was in a trance. And saw him saying unto me, Make haste and get thee quickly out of Jerusalem, for they will not receive thy testimony concerning me. And I said, Lord, they know that I imprison and beat in every synagogue them that believed on thee. And when the blood of thy martyr Stephen was shed, I also was standing by and consenting unto his death, and kept the raiment of them that slew him. And he said unto me, Depart, for I will send thee far hence unto the Gentiles. And yep, all the people were outraged. Now let's continue. Chapter 26 now. So now he's talking to King Agrippa. So he's gotten a witness to quite a bit of groups. They were putting him out with different groups. The high priest and them were trying to do so. He had to do so before King Agrippa. And then what he did was he appealed to Caesar. Paul did. But let's continue. Chapter 26 of Acts. Talking about the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder and the quest to attain it. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, Thou art permitted to speak for thyself. Then Paul stretched forth the hand and answered for himself. I think myself happy, King Agrippa, because I shall answer for myself this day before thee touching all the things whereof I am accused of the Yahudim, especially because I know thee to be expert in all customs and questions which are among the Yahudim. Wherefore I beseech thee to hear me patiently. My manner of life from my youth, which was at the first among mine own nation at Jerusalem, know all the Yahudim, which knew me from the beginning, if they would testify that after the most straightest sect of our religion, I lived a Pharisee. And now I stand and am judged for the hope of the promise made of Elohim unto our fathers, unto which promise are 12 tribes, instantly serving Elohim day and night. Hope to come. For which hope's sake, King Agrippa, I am accused of the Yahudim. Why should it be thought a thing incredible with you, that Elohim should raise the dead? I verily thought with myself that I ought to do many things contrary to the name of Yahushua of Nazareth. Which thing I also did in Jerusalem. And many of the saints did I shut up in prison, having received authority from the chief priest. And when they were put to death, I gave my voice against them, and I punished them oft in every synagogue, and compelled them to blaspheme. And being exceedingly mad against them, I persecuted them even unto strange cities. Whereupon, as I went to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priest, at midday, O king, I saw in the way a light from heaven, above the brightness of the sun, shining round about me and them which journeyed with me. And when we were all fallen to the earth, I heard a voice speaking unto me, and saying in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And I said, Who art thou, Lord? And he said, I am Yahushua, whom thou persecutest. But rise and stand upon thy feet, for I have appeared unto thee for this purpose, to make thee a minister and a witness, both of these things which thou hast seen. There it is again, y'all. And of those things in the which I will appear unto thee, delivering thee from the people and from the Gentiles, unto whom now I send thee, to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan unto Elohim, that they may receive forgiveness of sins, and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. Whereupon, O King Agrippa, I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision, but showed first unto them of Damascus, and at Jerusalem, and throughout all the coasts of Judah, and then to the Gentiles, that they should repent and turn to Elohim, and do works meet for repentance. Sounds similar to what John the Baptist said. He said, bring forth fruits worthy of repentance. Right. For these causes the Yahudim caught me in the temple, and went about to kill me. Having therefore obtained help of Elohim, I continue unto this day, witnessing both to small and great, saying none other things than those which the prophets and Moses did say should come, that Mashiach should suffer, and that he should be the first that should rise from the dead, and should show light unto the people and to the Gentiles. And as he thus spake for himself, Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, thou art beside thyself. Much learning doth make thee mad. But he said, I am not mad, most noble Festus, but speak forth the words of truth and soberness. For the king knoweth of these things, before whom also I speak freely. For I am persuaded that none of these things are hidden from him. For this thing was not done in a corner. Yep, but openly. That's right. Just like Mashiach said, I was in the temple, I spake these things openly. He showed them to them openly. Right. Let's continue. King Agrippa, believest thou the prophet? I know that thou believest. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian. And Paul said, I would to Elohim that not only thou, but also all that hear me this day, were both almost and altogether such as I am, except these bonds. And when he had thus spoken, the king rose up, and the governor and Bernice, and they that sat with them. And when they were gone aside, they talked between themselves, saying, This man doeth nothing worthy of death or of bonds. Then said Agrippa unto Festus, This man might have been set at liberty, if he had not appealed unto Caesar. Hallelujah. wisdom that makes kings and queens one in the quest to attain. All right. And we'll finish with 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 17 through chapter 2 of 1 Corinthians. And we'll go to verse 16. Hallelujah. And it reads, For Mashiach sent me not to baptize, not to immerse, but to preach the gospel. Yes, to preach the good news. To preach the Besorah, not with wisdom of words, lest the cross of Mashiach should be made of no effect. For the preaching of the cross, the preaching of the state, yes, is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved it is the power of Yah. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. And that is found in Isaiah chapter 29, verse 14. Let's continue, verse 20. 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this world? Has not Yah made foolish the wisdom of this world? For after that in the wisdom of Yah, the world by wisdom knew not Yahuwah. It pleased Yah by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe. For the Yahudim require a sign, and the Yavanim seek out their wisdom. The Yavanim is the Greeks. The Yahudim, of course, is what is typically known as Jews. But yes, the Yahudim. But we preach Mashiach crucified. Unto the Yahudim a stumbling block, and unto the Yavanim foolishness. But unto them which are called both Yahudim and Yavanim, Mashiach, the power of Yah, and the wisdom of Yah. Because the foolishness of Yah is wiser than men, and the weakness of Yah is stronger than men. We all know he has no weakness. He's just making a point here. He has no weakness. There's no part of him that's weak. Let's continue. Right. And even with Yehoshua being a part of him, them being a God, when he was here in the flesh, his spirit indeed was always willing, but the flesh is weak. That's why he said, watch and pray lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. So the fleshly, right, when he was in the flesh, it was weak, but he himself was never feeling. He was as strong. His resolve was as strong as it always was. So like we said, he has no weakness. Verse 26. For ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. But Yah has chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And Yahuwah has chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. And base things of the world and things which are despised has Yah chosen. Yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are. That no flesh should glory in his presence. But of him are ye in Mashiach Yahusha, who of Yah is made unto us wisdom and righteousness and sanctification and redemption, that, according as it is written, he that glories, let him glory in Yahuwah. Chapter 2, 1 Corinthians. And I, brethren, when I came to you, came not with excellency of speech or of wisdom, declaring unto you the testimony of Yahuwah. For I determined not to know anything among you, save Yahushua HaMashiach and him crucified. And I was with you in weakness, and in fear, and in much trembling. And my speech and my preaching was not with enticing words of man's wisdom, but in demonstration of the Ruach and of power. Yes, indeed, the kingdom of Elohim is not only in word, but in power. Let's continue, verse 5. That your belief should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of Yah. Howbeit we speak wisdom among them that are perfect, yet not the wisdom of this world, nor of the princes of this world. Right. He speaks of the wisdom that's from above, Yah. Not from that earthly, sensual, devilish kind of wisdom. No. We're speaking of greater wisdom, wisdom that comes from above, wisdom that comes from the Father of light, where every good and perfect gift comes from. Right. The Holy Spirit, that's a good and perfect gift. Yoshua Mashiach is a good and perfect gift. Let's get it. Hallelujah. Verse 7. Right, because the wisdom of this world, it comes to naught. Just like we right there, it comes to naught. It'll perish. Those thoughts we have, it'll perish. One thing that's going to last is what? The word of Yahweh. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of Yahweh endures forever. Right. Right. Why we want to get that temporary wisdom? We need to get that true wisdom, the wisdom from above. Let's get it. Eternal life, the word of Yahweh. Let's get it. Verse 6, howbeit we speak wisdom among them that are perfect, yet not the wisdom of this world, nor of the princes of this world that come to naught. But we speak the wisdom of Yah in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom, which Yahuwah ordained before the world unto our glory. What's the hidden wisdom? Well, y'all, what mystery is this? Remember what we was talking about the other time? Mystery of godliness. Let's read that real quick. Yes, this is the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder in the quest to attain. This right here. Let's go there real quick. Let's go read what the mystery of godliness is. Not the mystery of iniquity. That be trying to be, but the mystery of godliness. Let's talk about that. All right. 1 Timothy 3:16. Yep. And without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness, or great is the mystery of holiness. Yahuwah was manifest in the flesh, justified in the Ruach, seen of angels, preached unto the other nations, believed on in the world, received up into glory. Yep, Elohim was manifest in the flesh. Yahuwah was manifest in the flesh as Yahusha was the word of Yahuwah. This is how he was able to wrap up a heart in a body. Let's get it. But we speak the wisdom of Yah in the mystery, even the hidden wisdom, which Yahuwah ordained before the world unto our glory, which none of the princes of this world knew. For had they known it, they would not have crucified the Yah of glory. They would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as it is written, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which Yahuwah has prepared for them that love him. But Yah has revealed them unto us by his Spirit, for the Spirit searches all things. Yes, indeed, Holy Spirit, that's right. Yea, the deep things of Yahuwah. For what man knows the things of a man, save the spirit of man which is in him? Even so, the things of Yah knows no man, but by the Ruach Yahuwah. Yes, the Spirit of Yahuwah. Now we have received not the Ruach of the world, but the Ruach which is of Yahuwah, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of Yahuwah, which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teaches, but which the Ruach HaKodesh teaches. Yes, that's the Holy Spirit teaches, yes. Comparing spiritual things with spiritual. But the natural man receives not the things of the Ruach Yahuwah, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. But he that is spiritual judges all things, yet he himself is judged of no man. For who has known the mind of the Yahuwah, the mind of the Spirit of Yahuwah, that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of the Ruach Mashiach. Hallelujah. The mind of Mashiach. Toda Abaya. Thank y'all for listening here. This is the wisdom that makes kings and queens wonder, and the quest to attain it. If you need to get in contact with us, you can send You can send an email to Yes Ministries. That's Yes Ministries. Yes stands for Yah is everlasting salvation. Yah is eternal salvation, as we can find in Isaiah 45 and 17 in Hebrew. And this eternal salvation part can be found in Hebrews 5 and 9. That's Yes Ministries, Y-E-S, like yes, like we say yes, right. Y-E-S, Yes Ministries, 4-5. The numerals, 4-5, at gmail.com. You can also go over to Salvation and Glory 7 YouTube. You can leave a comment there. Or you can leave a comment here on Spreaker. I'm a live and share prophetic preaching. Also on Twitter, it should be at Yah Remembers. All right, and on that note, I'm going to say shalom.